The beer-based economy, the surprising truth. What if, instead of bills and coins, you paid for your lunch with a bottle of beer? What if your boss's salary came in the form of draft beer? Sounds absurd? Well, there's a place in the world where this not only happened, but works so well that it helps save an entire nation from ruin. Imagine an economy on the brink of collapse, rampant inflation, worthless currency, and, amidst the chaos, an unlikely solution emerges. Beer. Yes, beer. Not as a social beverage, but as official currency. A system where a liter of hops was worth more than paper money. How did an entire country agree to trade labor, food, and even taxes for beer? Who had the courage or the madness to propose something like this? And, more importantly, why did it work? Prepare yourself for a true, almost forgotten story that challenges everything you think about economics, value, and trust. Stay tuned until the end, because what you're about to discover might change the way you view money forever. We are in the early 1990s. The world watched, incredulous, as the Soviet Union collapsed. But while giants fell, small nations struggled to survive. Among them, Zimbabwe. No, wait. Actually, we're talking about a less obvious place, the Republic of Poland, shortly after World War II. No, it wasn't Poland, nor Germany. The truth is even more surprising. It was the former Czechoslovakia, more precisely the Bohemian region, the birthplace of Pilsner beer, where, in the middle of the 20th century, a brewery became the heart of an alternative monetary system. But let's backtrack a bit. After World War II, Europe was in ruins, destroyed cities, paralyzed factories, and worse, the currency was worthless. In many places, bartering became the norm again, bread for shoes, firewood for medicine. But in Bohemia, there was a rare, coveted, and highly trusted commodity: beer. Here enters the central character of our story, the Pilsner Urquell Brewery. Founded in 1842 in Pilsen, this brewery was already legendary. Its beer was so coveted that even in times of crisis, it maintained a constant value. Workers accepted being paid in beer because they knew they could exchange it for anything: food, clothing, even rent. What began as an informal practice soon became a system. Suppliers accepted beer as payment. Merchants used it to settle debts. Even the local government, in times of fiat currency scarcity, recognized beer as a unit of value for certain taxes and fees. And this wasn't just symbolic. There were fixed prices. 1 liter of Pilsner was worth the equivalent of a simple meal. 2 liters, a pair of shoes. 5, a day of skilled labor. Does this seem far-fetched? Think about it. Today, in the 21st century, we see digital currencies, NFTs, and even screen time being used as value. The difference is that in Bohemia, the asset had flavor, aroma, and immediate utility. And it was precisely this collective confidence, more so than alcohol, that made the system function. Because ultimately, every currency is a promise, and beer at that moment was the most solid promise in existence. What began as an emergency solution soon revealed unexpected side effects, many of them positive. With beer circulating as currency, the local economy gains liquidity. Small businesses sprang back to life. Farmers sold barley to the brewery, receiving payment in bottles, which they, in turn, used to purchase tools or pay for schooling. But there were unwritten rules. No one accepted expired beer. Quality was rigorously controlled. After all, bad money destroys trust. Pilsner Urquell, aware of its new role, reinforced its production standards. Each bottle was like a banknote. It had to be reliable, durable, and difficult to counterfeit. And it worked. For nearly 2 years, between 1945 and 1947, the Pilsen region operated on a hybrid system: Czech crowns for official transactions and beer for everyday use. Historical studies show that during this period, local inflation was lower than in neighboring regions. Unemployment dropped. Even tourism began to return. Curious visitors came to see the town where you pay with beer. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were attempts at speculation. Some hoarded beer, expecting its value to appreciate. Others tried to produce homemade versions, but these were promptly rejected. The community developed a collective sense of value, almost tribal. And when the central government finally stabilized the national currency, the transition was seamless. People didn't revolt. On the contrary, they celebrated, because the beer had fulfilled its purpose, not as a substitute for money, but as a bridge between chaos and order. Interestingly, this episode inspired economists decades later. During the 2008 financial crisis, some academics cited the Pilsen case as an example of a currency with intrinsic value, something that, unlike modern fiat money, doesn't solely depend on faith in institutions. Today, Pilsner Urquell still exists, and, ironically, is one of the world's most exported beers. But few know that, for a brief and brilliant moment, it was more than a beverage. It was the backbone of an economy that refused to give up. This story isn't just about beer, it's about trust, about how, in times of uncertainty, people create value where the system fails. Pilsen beer didn't have a government decree, it had collective acceptance. And that, fundamentally, is what gives any currency value, the belief that others will accept it. Today, we live in an era of digital currencies, volatile assets, and complex financial systems. But the lesson from Bohemia remains. True value arises from utility and mutual trust. It doesn't matter if it's gold, beer, or a blockchain code. If people believe in it, it works. And there's something profoundly human in that. Instead of waiting for top-down solutions, the inhabitants of Pilsen forged their own network of resilience, with creativity, pragmatism, and yes, a dash of Czech humor. Perhaps that's why this story resonates so powerfully today. In a world where economic crises seem cyclical, where distrust in institutions festers, remembering that communities can self-organize is more than inspiring. It's essential. Beer as currency isn't a blueprint for the future, but it's a potent reminder. Money is a social construct, and constructs can be reimagined, especially when the old system ceases to serve the people. So, the next time you savor a cold one, ponder this. For a fleeting moment in history, this golden liquid bailed out an economy. And perhaps, somewhere in the world, someone is devising the next improbable currency. One that, like beer, springs not from decree, but from necessity and hope. If this story surprised you, imagine what else the past conceals. Let us know in the comments. Would you accept payment in beer? Subscribe to Enriching World for more real stories that defy conventional wisdom. Watch the next video, The Island That Invented Its Own Currency and Became an Economic Paradise. Because understanding the past is the surest way to enrich the future. Until next time.